Chapter 28. A Guardian Angel. Sade's sleep was troubled, and her nightmare about Mama was even more distorted. Not only was Marcia there pointing at her as she crouched beside Mama's body, but this time Marcia accused her. "It's your fault, little liar." But when the embroidered bedspread with its crimson stain was pulled back, Mama wasn't there. Instead, a baby girl with Mariam's eyes stared lifelessly up at her. In the morning, Aunt Gracie took Sade's temperature. It was above normal, and Aunt Gracie declared that she should stay in the house. "It may just be a touch of flu, but you don't look right to me, my dear." But when Femi complained he also wasn't feeling well, Aunt Gracie said that she was sure he would be all right once he got to school. Just as Femi seemed ready to dig his heels in, the telephone rang. It was Mama Appiah wanting to talk to them about something important. On hearing that Sade would be at home, Mama Appiah said she would call in during the morning. Femi arched his eyebrows like two bows drawn and ready to fire, but Aunt Gracie disarmed him first. "Well, Femi, it looks like you should stay. Mrs. Appiah wants to see you both," she said. Although her brother didn't exactly smile, Sade recognised his little look of victory. Questions raced through Sade's head as she pulled on her tracksuit. Had the immigration people found something wrong? Or was there news of Uncle Dele? It must be something urgent, or Mama Appiah would have waited until her visit at the end of the week. But just as she was coming down the stairs, her stomach suddenly seemed to lurch beneath her. Mama Appiah had heard about her stealing the lighter. Mariam's uncle must have realised what was missing, and they had worked out it was her. Mariam must have seen her after all. Then her uncle must have gone to the police, who contacted the social workers. Ayawo Jenny had told Mama Appiah. All these people knew she was a thief. Halfway down the stairs, Sade wheeled around and scuttled back up towards her bedroom. She pushed past Femi on the landing. She slammed her door behind her. Fully clothed, she dived back into bed, burying herself deep under the quilt. A couple of hours later, Sade sat with arms tightly folded next to Mama Appiah. Femi sat on a separate little stool. From fingertips to toes, Sade tingled with cold. The orange-blue tongues that flickered up from the gas fire that looked like coals made no difference at all. She listened to Mama Appiah agree with Aunt Gracie that Sade doesn't seem right, and stared dully at the dancing patterns of light as Mama Appiah asked Uncle Roy and Aunt Gracie to stay in the sitting room. They too had to know that she was a thief. "Tell me," Mama Appiah began. Sade's head curled inwards, like a snail that had lost its shell. Mama Appiah and the Kings had no need to prod her. Her guilt was plain to see. "Tell me," Mama Appiah repeated. "Sade and Femi, do you know Mr. Folarin Salaja?" Sade's head shot up and Femi's eyes widened. "Papa!" he cried. Mama Appiah's eyes travelled gravely from Femi to Sade. The little bird tails at the end of her kingfisher blue gele shimmered, waiting. Sade's hand covered her mouth. He is our father," the words squeezed through Sade's fingers. "Well, truly, there must be a guardian angel looking after you." The bird tails bobbed. "With your names, Sade and Femi Adewale, your father might never have found you." It seemed unbelievable. Papa was already here in England. Mama Appiah had actually met him. He had told her his story, their story, how his wife had been shot at their home in Lagos, and he had sent his 2 children immediately to London. His younger brother was meant to take care of them, but by the time he had realised that his brother Dele was missing, the children had already been sent. He was frantically worried. He had no idea where his children were, who they were with, and whether they were safe. Their names were Sade and Femi. Sade bit her thumb so hard it pained. But where was Papa? Why hadn't Mama Appiah brought him with her? Then the full story hit her. Yes, Papa was here in England, but he was in detention, in prison. Femi's eyes, which had momentarily lit up, were now awash with tears. Papa had attempted to come into the country with the false passport he had used to escape. He'd been so worried about his children that all he wanted to do was to find them before asking the government for political asylum. I'm afraid your daddy didn't know the rules, Mama Appia explained. You have to tell your story, ask for asylum the moment you arrive. If someone uses a false passport first, and the immigration officers then find them out, it's too late. They won't believe their real story. Sade was stunned. The immigration officers thought Papa was a liar. The truth is the truth. How can I write what's untrue? Papa, who always believed in telling the truth, had kept quiet until it was too late, because he had been frantic to find his children. Aunt Gracie slipped quietly onto the settee. She wrapped her arm around Sade, who was trembling. Femi hunched himself into a taut little figure on his stool. He'd been fiercely trying to wipe his tears away. Tell us, Mrs. Appia, how did you find the children's father? Uncle Roy's bass voice steadied Sade enough to listen to the rest of Mama Appia's story. A miracle, an absolute miracle, Mr. King. I had to visit a boy who has been detained by immigration. They say he's 18, so they locked him up, but we think he's younger. Femi straightened up a little at the mention of the boy. So I went to Heathlands Detention Centre, where they keep detainees. Your daddy heard that someone from the Refugee Council was visiting this boy, and he requested to see me. He asked if I knew two children with the surname Saloja. I said no. Mama Appia turned to Sade. But when he said the names Sade and Femi, and the dates fitted, I was 99% sure it was you two. Sade hung her head, even though it was pointless trying to hide her tears. Papa was here, in England, behind bars. Don't blame yourself, said Mama Appia quietly. Sometimes people don't tell the truth because they are so desperate. I'm sure that's what's happened with you two, and I'm very sure with your father. Sade's sniff seemed much louder in her own head than Mama Appia's voice, and she strained to hear every word. From what he told me, I think he must be a very brave man. You must be very proud of him. Sade detected Femi sitting up a little straighter as Mama Appia spoke about Papa. Her mind was bobbing like a cork trapped below a waterfall. Do you know, Mr. and Mrs. King, Mama Appia continued, that these children's father is a writer? He showed me 2 articles. What strong words! He had to smuggle them out. Well, and these 2 never said a word. Uncle Roy's voice rumbled into a deep spray of laughter. Sade couldn't help smiling as she blinked back her tears. Before leaving, Mama Appia asked if she could ring Heathlands Detention Centre to arrange a visit for the children. Sade and Femi clung nervously close as they listened to her spelling out their first names and then Solaja. There was, however, yet one more surprise. I'd like to speak to Mr. Saloja, please, Mama Appia asked, then held out the receiver to the children. They stared at each other in disbelief. Was it really possible that they could speak to Papa right away, while he was in prison? Sade lifted the receiver uncertainly to her ear. Tinny music was squeaking out. Then suddenly it was switched off, followed by a couple of clicks. A voice, Papa's voice, was saying hello.